they're at and things they do well consistently versus like kind of the build that you guys are trying to put together?
You want me to compare us to them?
No, I want to know where you think so that like sort of as this team is on, it's like
that's a championship team right there. We're not.
What are the biggest things you think that are keeping this team as right now?
We can't sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes. And they can. That's why they won a championship.
All right, here with Monica, big Perk as well. Perk, we're going to start with you. Lakers' 3-game winning streak comes to an end last night after yet another ineffective defensive performance. Biggest concern, or I should say biggest takeaway from last night's loss?
I agree with LeBron. Look, to be honest with you, the Lakers, they hadn't built out a roster since a championship caliber roster since 2020. And they told you everything that they needed to tell us when they made a trade and went got Luka that their focus wasn't there for us winning the championship. Because if it was, they would have went got high motor guys. They would have went got defenders. They would have tried to go get a big man that could actually anchor the middle and do what's needed to be done. But instead, they go and they rely on offense. Offense will win you games, but defense will win you championships. And when you listen to LeBron comments, he knows what it takes and he knows what it looks like, and the Lakers don't have a championship roster.
No Luka, clearly not an excuse because no SGA on the other side. Your biggest takeaway from last night?
It's the Lakers, so we'll continue to discuss them. But, like, this is not a contender. Like, I mean, and granted, you look at the standings right now and they're sitting at 50. You're like, okay, maybe. Like, are they right where they need to be? Will they make a push? I think when it comes down to it, as you look at the Western Conference, Joe and Perk, size, depth, defensive competition, or constitution competition, whichever word you want to use, like, it's just not there in terms of being able to come out of the Western Conference. Now, moving forward, if you can get past this season, I'm not mad at having Luka Doncic as a centerpiece at all, right? I think he will be an attractive guy to play with in this league. It is still the legacy of the Lakers organization, the city of Los Angeles. But right now, like, this team is a first-round bounce out in the playoff teams as far as I'm concerned.
Perk, jump back in here.
This is the big question that you got to ask yourself. Can you build the championship roster around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves?
That's fair.
That's the question. And my answer is no. Look, I love Austin Reeves. I think he has, you know, one of the when it comes to one of the best young rising stars in the league, I think he has taken that leap. But you can't have two guys on the floor at the same time that's going to be eating up majority of your salary getting picked on defensively. That's just not going to cut it.
I 100% agree with Perk, but I think, to me, the thing that makes this fascinating is we basically saw the formula in Dallas around Luka. Like, it has been laid out for the Lakers organization in terms of what works well, so I'll be curious to see how they play it.
21 of the last 25 NBA champions, finished the regular season ranked in the top 12 in defensive efficiency. Defense matters. Lakers currently ranked 22nd in defensive efficiency.
Aspirations, they've got Luka Doncic as their centerpiece. But while LeBron James's statement was simple, it should not be confused with easy. What the Thunder have done and continue to do is impressive. It is why they are the class of the NBA. When I look at this Lakers roster in terms of the size and the depth that you need to compete in the Western Conference, when I look at how they, I think, air quotes around, attempt to defend, I'm not impressed at all. And so I think the core of what is required to win at a high level, the Lakers are without consistently.
Yeah, I mean, he ain't lie. Like, I mean, he was telling the truth. I mean, only thing I would correct is that was not a championship Thunder team out there. SGA was not out there, and J-Dub only played half the game, and he was, you know, that wrist was kind of bothering him, and the Lakers still had nothing for him, especially on the defensive end. We're excited about Austin Reeves coming back, but towards the end of that game, they were hunting him to get those points, and he was an absolute lunchable, could not stop anybody down in the paint, and that was how the Thunder were able to pull away. This Lakers squad is still 500 against teams above 500. They've lost 17 of their games by double digits. LeBron is right. This is not a championship team in Los Angeles.
5th seed in the West, but agreed, slippery slope. Meanwhile, the Jazz, they're 20 games below 500. They did beat the Heat last night, despite not playing Jaren Jackson Jr. or Lauri Markkanen a single second in the fourth quarter. Utah's second win in their last 10 games. Not a good basketball team. Here's Jazz head coach Will Hardy after the game. Listen to this.
guard and your leading scorer out of the game, you got other guys that can step in and fill in those gaps where you need it. Isaiah Joe had a big night. You know, you got Caruso having a big night. Jalen Williams, he looked like he's back to form and getting over those injuries that he's been dealing with. So this is a great basketball team. You know, they're very intentional and deliberate about how they play. They stick to their guns. You know, a lot of their shots come from places that you can tell that they've drilled in a certain way that they play. And last night was no different against the Lakers. You know, they have a lot of depth, a lot of different guys that can go out there and win them basketball games. And they were able to do it last night. And they've been able to do it over the course of the last 2 seasons. That's been the makeup of this team, you know. So even with SGA and Luka out on the floor, it still was a favorable game for OKC.
You know, I think this is why people are a little conservative when the season starts, even though OKC started out so hot and people were thinking they're going to break the record, Lou. They've obviously sort of leveled out a little bit. They've lost 2 of their last 3, no SGA. But I'm wondering if we throw the standings up there, if you would think that maybe somebody else by the time this bad boy is over can overtake the top spot. And yeah, Spurs are 3.5 games back. They do have the tiebreaker. Nuggets 6.5 games back. What do you think?
No, I think they're still in the driver's seat. You know, as far as the regular season record goes, I think that was a goal that we as outsiders set for them. You know, we've never heard them say that was something that they were trying to do or something they were trying to accomplish. That's a tall task to ask. You know, and even in the year that Golden State went out and did it, they didn't win a championship that year. So, you know, it's a great record to have, but if you look at it that way, it's kind of taboo, right? It's like, do I really even want to scratch the surface of having that record? So that's something that we've set for these guys on the outside looking in. But to me, it looks like a team that's, you know, they do have championship aspirations again, but now they know what it takes to get there. Now they know that, listen, we can work on some of our weaknesses during the season, not put as much pressure on us to be perfect, but come playoff time, we have another level and we have another switch that we can tap into, you know, and I think OKC is moving like that. Also, they're a team this year that's dealing with some adversity. You know, they've had SGA in and out of the lineup. Caruso has been in and out of the lineup. Hardenstein has missed some time. My guy Chet has missed some time. Obviously, Jalen Williams has missed some time. They've dealt with some adversity this season that they haven't dealt with, and with that comes adjustments. I think they've adjusted. They went through, you know, the rigors of going through a losing streak and adjusting to different teams, playing them in different ways and getting everybody's best shots. But they're still 3.5 games up on everybody. So to me, that says this is still a strong team, still the best team in the Western Conference with everything they're still dealing with and being able to win quality basketball games starting with last night. So
I agree with everything Lou said. They are in the driver's seat. You know, they are the team to beat. And, you know, like we keep speaking on the luxury of having so much depth. That's part of the reason they are in such a comfortable situation. That's part of the reason why they can go through the adversity that they've gone through this season as far as in and out of the lineups due to injury. And still, you know, keep things afloat, still be a dominant team, and carry that #1 in the West. So all of those factors play into that. And but on the hindsight of things, I do think there's one threat in the West, and that is the Spurs. As far as
Say it again, Boogie. Say it again. Hear it.
And the reason I say that is because they're somewhat identical as far as having the depth, having a great mixture of young and veteran guys. You can count on a guy like Harrison Barnes to come in and win games for you, even at this point in his career. And that's a luxury that also the Spurs have. So if there is a threat to take #1 in the West, the only team that stands out for me is the Spurs.
Who'd have thunk that? By the way, this did happen over the weekend, Lou. I know it's been a minute, but the KD return over the weekend, they were still booing him in that building.
Everything.
I know, it's kind of, look, I am petty.
I like it. You know what we call that, Bill? We call it standing on business. Remember we were giving you a crash course of standing on business?
Yeah, I remember.
The OKC fan base, they've decided they're going to stand on business when it comes to Kevin Durant.
Dang, I thought we loved Kevin Durant. All right. Honestly, I'm not mad at him.
I'm sure he has love there too, but you know the boos get a little louder sometimes.
It's kind of crazy to me. It's still going. Boogie, why are you shaking your head?
I don't understand it, man. I don't.
It's been a while.
It's 10 years. Like,
yeah, I mean, if I think about an ex from 10 years ago, I still don't like him. Like, I kind of get that.
Yeah, but that's a bit psychotic as well.
Well, that's
If
what
the
I
person is on your
It's
mind 10
a
years.
style of breakup too. It's a style.
But
You know, we
it's
all
not
got
that they're on
we all
your
got that
mind.
one ex that we still cordial with, might talk to once every 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And then you got that one ex that it don't matter if y'all ever speak again. It's cool. It's
fair.
obviously cool. Yeah,
And by the way,
breakups are
Boogie, in defense of people who might be a little psychotic, it's not that they're on your mind, but when you put them right in front of you, you're like, oh, yeah, no, I don't like you. I forgot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
I take it as a sign of respect because it's been plenty guys that come in and out of that franchise and only one is receiving that type of reaction. So it's got to be some form of greatness for your approach to be that every time a person comes through. So I take it as
Russ gets love. Russ gets nothing but love.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we got to call a spade.
It's not much of a difference between love and hate. Yeah. So, you know, you can say
You
what
gotta
you
call a
want.
spade a spade. I think the only reason it's like this because he went and joined the team that eliminated them the prior season. I think that's the only reason that some of these fans still have their energy. But at this point, y'all gotta let it go. KD is far removed. Russ is far removed. You guys got a championship from a completely different crop of guys. Like bury the hatchet and get over that.
That's fair. You did go and find the love of your life. So, okay. You know what? Maybe I'm against the booing this time. Maybe. Before we get over to the Lakers side, and we will, I want to show y'all something, Boogie. It's a little video here that I'd like you to explain to me what's going on here. Oh, no. Oh, and then there's that guy. Okay. What?
Hey, man, that's just an old man having fun at work, man. You gotta find
Old
joy
man
in what
having
you do.
fun.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it.
That's
Hey, they need as much joy as they can get. It's a long season. It's a lot of ups and downs. So if you can ever find a moment to just enjoy yourself, smile, have some fun, I'm all for it.
I actually love that. It's awkward, but in like a good way. By the way, anybody else, did you guys play with anyone or remember anyone that you played against that had maybe did weird things during pregame? I know we have Dylan Brooks now with the stare downs, which are
Everybody
awesome.
everybody got something that's considered weird in pregame.
Yeah, what's the best?
What's my guy name?
Oh, I love it.
I've seen it all.
I can't think of his name right now.
What did he do?
Yeah.
Bro, before the games, I can't think of my point guard name, played for the Knicks as well. He was with me for a short stint in Sacramento, but he would get in the mirror in his towel. He take a shower before every game, which is whatever, but he would just brush his hair for like 30 minutes before the game. Like that was his routine, just sit in the mirror and just brush his hair.
That's kind of manic.
There you go hating on the hair again, Boogie. There you go hating.
The game. You know, the I would say there's a couple things just throughout the game and really like the key points of the game. You know, us going up 8, and then down the stretch. I think when you play the best teams in Oklahoma City, it's clearly they're the best team, and you have to have a really high level of effort and you have to have a really high level of execution. So it's got to be both. And I thought for the most part our effort was fantastic. And in key stretches of the game, our execution wasn't great. And, a lot of that for me tonight was just our defensively our shell principles, like basic shell principles. The 3 Jalen Williams threes, his man was not supposed to help. Like that was an overhelp, and that was in our shell principles. And then, down the stretch, at times, to start the fourth, I didn't think we did a good job of getting LeBron the ball. And, some of that was we called plays and we didn't execute. Some of that was just not having just the recognition. Him playing against smaller players was how we got back in the game, and we didn't do a good job of getting him the ball.
JJ, how frustrating was it for you to, you won 2 challenges on pretty obvious plays?
Yeah, I shouldn't have. The Austin trip was a big play, and we did a great job in the second half. We just had 5 turnovers after 10 in the first half. That killed us in the first half. That led to 20 points. But, he got tripped, and it would have been an easy proximate foul. Shouldn't have used the one, especially the one. The one out of bounds was ridiculous. Yeah.
Is that, I mean, in these competition committee meetings and stuff like this, is that stuff that's ever been discussed to your knowledge on whether it's an extra challenge if you keep winning them or anything like that?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. I mean, how many? You go 6 for 6 in a game because you're gonna get 6 opportunities.
You mentioned Austin. What did you see in the second half? He was in a really good rhythm in the first half. Did they make any adjustments with him, and just kind of the challenge of playing against Wallace, Dort, and Caruso for 48 minutes?
There was a couple of tough threes that he took. Thought he had a couple angles on his drives and just didn't finish. Had a couple middies that he didn't, he created separation with his bump and didn't hit. Jalen Williams down the stretch did the same thing against us, and he made his. So it's just, some of it is make miss. We had open looks down the stretch, we didn't make those. Jalen Williams, made the big 3 in the corner. Caruso made the 3. We had a look at the end of the third, we didn't make it, and Caruso makes a 3 to put him up 4. So there's just those stretches, and again, you're playing against the best team in the NBA, and they've got more depth, or as much depth as anybody. They got just a bunch of guys that can hurt you. Caruso killed us on both ends tonight, and Jalen Williams, hit some big shots as well.
Obviously, the no call on the Austin trip by Dort resulted in a turnover. How many of the first half turnovers, not necessarily a number, but do you think that was a result of the physical style that OKC plays with, and maybe some calls not being identified by the referees?
No, I mean they're going to pressure you, and I think we had a number of really good possessions where we brought the right guys into the action, and we got the matchups and created driving angles for AR, or matchups for LeBron throughout the game. They're going to naturally create some turnovers. Again, it's the unforced ones. You can kind of point to and just say we don't need it. Let's try to hit singles. We need to hit singles against teams like this, and don't need the home run.
Next question.
Thank you.
Lakers didn't get the calls tonight. It's a very active team, a great defensive team. They were talking about on the broadcast their use of their hands more than any team in the league. That frustrated the Lakers at times. OKC shot 42% from 3. Big night for their bench. We'll get to that in a moment. Also, 14 offensive boards turned into 24 points, 12 steals also for OKC, and then we'll talk about the execution down the stretch for the Lakers in a moment. But hard-fought battle, James.
It was a hard-fought battle. The Lakers fought hard, Geeter, especially in the second half. They came back. I think they got the lead.
By 8.
And then, Oklahoma's, they're such a physical team that sometimes they get you out of your play. You start complaining about a foul or two, and then they're out. I thought Williams, coming back, he had to come back against us tonight. Mm-hmm. He lit us up. I think their bench had over 50 points as well. So there were moments that you have to capture the game. And I thought the Lakers, maybe tried to force a pass too much when they needed the possession. Possessions are critical down the stretch. And it's okay to take a risk early in the game, a long pass. But when you have the ball in the third, fourth quarter, you got to really, take care of the basketball. I think, some offensive rebounds for Oklahoma kind of stymied the growth that the Lakers were headed. But Oklahoma played a good game. You just have to be ready for their physicality. I think the Lakers just couldn't match that down the stretch.
Phil Jackson used to call Bruce Bowen Edward Scissorhands because he was very handsy, plenty of fouls in there.
Is there anything more deliciously ironic than watching the Los Angeles Lakers, a franchise that has spent the better part of the last decade being mercilessly ridiculed for their championship work, impatience and win-now desperation, suddenly find themselves caught in the most peculiar of basketball predicament, where they appear to be simultaneously both legitimate championship contenders and deeply flawed pretenders, depending entirely on which version of their schizophrenic personality decides to show up on any given evening. How exactly does a team featuring not only the league's current leading scorer in the transcendent, Luka Doncic, but also the ageless basketball savant that is LeBron James manage to look absolutely unstoppable in championship caliber during one stretch of games only to completely fall apart and expose fundamental flaws against the very teams they'll inevitably need to defeat if they harbor any realistic hopes of hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy in June? What does it tell us about the current state of this Lakers roster construction and their collective basketball IQ that their most encouraging and confidence-building performances often come with significant asterisks attached? Whether it's dismantling undermanned opponents, missing key players, benefiting from questionable officiating that goes heavily in their favor, or simply catching teams on back-to-back situations where fatigue becomes a determining factor. And perhaps most intriguingly and revealing of all, as we dive deep into the multi-layered aftermath of Monday night's absolutely crushing and soul-crushing 119-110 defeat to the Oklahoma City Thunder, while simultaneously looking ahead with cautious optimism to tonight's potentially pivotal matchup against the dangerous and improving San Antonio Spurs. What can we honestly learn about this team's true championship ceiling from carefully analyzing the way they respond to adversity when their backs are pressed firmly against the wall and their weaknesses are exposed under the bright lights of primetime basketball? Don't forget to smash that like button if you're enjoying this comprehensive and unflinching breakdown of exactly where the Lakers currently stand in their championship pursuit. The most immediate, pressing, and frankly alarming concern that emerged from Monday's thoroughly disappointing and strategically damaging loss to Oklahoma City was Austin Reeves' continued and increasingly troubling struggles when facing the type of intense defensive pressure, aggressive ball harassment, and physical play that playoff caliber teams routinely employ, and that referees consistently allowed to escalate without providing the protective whistle that he's grown not just accustomed to, but seemingly dependent upon throughout much of this season's regular season. Reeves finished Monday's contest with what can only be described as a thoroughly subpar and concerning performance, managing just modest statistical production while committing 5 absolutely crushing turnovers that directly contributed to the Thunder's ability to maintain control and dictate pace during crucial stretches of the game when the Lakers desperately needed their supposed secondary playmaker and offensive creator to step up and provide the kind of reliable, high-level production that championship teams simply must have from their second and third options. The concerning and persistent pattern that has emerged with Reeves throughout this season isn't necessarily his raw inability to produce quality basketball against elite competition, which he's demonstrated he can do when circumstances align in his favor, but rather his increasingly obvious tendency to allow frustration with officiating decisions and uncalls to completely derail his decision-making process and lead him down the destructive and counterproductive path of trying to manufacture foul calls and earn trips to the free throw line rather than simply trusting his considerable and well-documented skill set to create quality scoring opportunities through basketball fundamentals and intelligent play. We've witnessed this troubling and self-defeating dynamic play out multiple times throughout this season and dating back to previous campaigns, particularly against physically imposing teams like Minnesota in last year's playoffs, where aggressive defensive schemes, constant ball pressure, and the type of playoff intensity physicality that referees traditionally allow seem to completely neutralize his effectiveness and force him into uncomfortable situations where his natural basketball instincts and usually sound decision-making were completely overridden by his burning desire to draw fouls that simply weren't being called by officials who had clearly established an entirely different standard for contact. The most troubling and potentially damaging aspect of Reeves' performance against the Thunder wasn't even the raw statistical production, which was disappointing and below his seasonal standards across multiple categories, but rather the visible and mounting frustration that seemed to compound and multiply with each contested drive to the basket, each hand check that wasn't called, and each nan call from the officiating crew that left him demonstratively shaking his head, arguing with referees, and allowing his emotional state to negatively impact his focus instead of immediately getting back in transition defense or channeling his energy into executing the next possession with maximum efficiency and focus. His technical foul, while completely understandable given the apparent and obvious contact that wasn't acknowledged by the officials, represented exactly the kind of emotional reaction and loss of composure that championship caliber teams simply cannot afford from their key contributor and primary ball handlers during high-stakes moments when maintaining mental toughness and emotional equilibrium becomes just as important as executing offensive sets and creating quality shot attempts. The comparison to Luka Doncic's approach to similar officiating situations is particularly instructive and revealing, as the Lakers' leading scorer and primary offensive engine has consistently demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt his offensive approach and shot selection when referees make it abundantly clear through their early game calls and non-calls that they're not going to reward certain types of contact-seeking behavior. Seamlessly transitioning from foul hunting mode to pure scoring mode without allowing the necessary adjustment to affect his overall productivity, emotional state, or impact on team chemistry and offensive flow. Doncic's basketball maturity in these situations has been evident throughout his career, as he possesses the rare combination of competitive fire and strategic intelligence necessary to recognize when officials have established a particular standard for physical play and then adjust accordingly without sacrificing his effectiveness or allowing frustration to poison his decision. For extended periods, I believe this represents one of the most crucial and potentially determining areas for Reeves' continued development as a championship-level contributor, as his ability to remain consistently effective and emotionally stable regardless of how games are being officiated will ultimately determine whether he can truly be the reliable secondary option and complementary star that the Lakers desperately need during their upcoming playoff run and potential championship chase. The equally concerning and strategically damaging subplot from Monday's frustrating defeat was Jake LaRavia's absolute inability to convert 3 consecutive wide-open three-point attempts during a crucial fourth-quarter sequence that could have completely altered the trajectory of the game, shifted momentum decisively in the Lakers' favor, and potentially delivered the kind of statement victory against the defending champions that would have provided massive confidence and validation heading into the final stretch of the regular season. LaRavia's ongoing and increasingly problematic struggles from beyond the arc have become one of the Lakers' most persistent and damaging weaknesses. For a team that desperately needs reliable and consistent shooting from their role players and bench contributors, particularly when their star players are drawing heavy defensive attention and switching schemes specifically designed to create the exact type of clean looks and open shooting opportunities that championship teams absolutely must capitalize on to reach their ultimate potential and compete with the elite teams in both conferences. The young forwards' season-long three-point percentage of just 32% represents not just a statistical disappointment, but a fundamental failure to meet expectations for a player who was specifically acquired and targeted because he was supposed to provide both defensive versatility and offensive spacing. And his repeated inability to knock down shots in pressure-packed moments raises legitimate and troubling questions about whether he possesses the mental fortitude, shooting consistency, and clutch gene necessary to contribute meaningfully during high-stakes playoff basketball where margin for error becomes virtually non-existent and every possession carries exponentially greater importance than regular season games. The visual image of LaRavia's confidence seemingly deflating and evaporating with each missed attempt, like air slowly leaking from a punctured balloon, perfectly encapsulated one of the Lakers' most persistent and damaging challenges throughout this season, which is their troubling and consistent lack of reliable depth shooting that opposing teams must genuinely respect, plan for, and account for when designing their defensive schemes and rotation patterns. While LaRavia has certainly shown tantalizing flashes and brief glimpses of the versatile and impactful player the Lakers hoped they were acquiring when they signed him as a priority free agent target, his maddening inconsistency from three-point range and his tendency to disappear during crucial moments has forced J.J. Redick to make increasingly difficult rotation decisions and has significantly limited the team's ability to maintain proper offensive spacing when their primary creators need rest or when specific game situations require particular lineup configurations and strategic adjustments. The fact that Luke Kennard was immediately inserted into crucial A-game moments during his very first performance as a Laker suggests that the Lakers coaching staff has grown frustrated and impatient with waiting for internal improvement and development and has decided to prioritize proven production and established reliability over developmental patience and long-term potential, thinking about it realistically and without emotional attachment. LaRavia's relative youth and inexperience in high-pressure situations certainly provide reasonable context and logical explanation for his struggles, but championship-caliber teams operating within championship windows often cannot afford the luxury of extended development. Timelines when every single game carries significant implications for playoff seeding, home court advantage, and ultimate championship positioning. Perhaps the most damning, concerning, and franchise-altering storyline to emerge from the Thunder loss was the continued and intensifying questioning of DeAndre Ayton's long-term viability as the Lakers' franchise center and supposed interior anchor, with his lackluster performance, apparent lack of consistent motor, and general basketball IQ deficiencies becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, excuse away, or rationalize as temporary adjustments to a new system, different teammates, or unfamiliar offensive and defensive schemes. Ayton's persistent inability to protect the rim consistently and effectively. His troubling tendency to bring the ball down low in traffic situations rather than keeping it high and strong like fundamental basketball coaching dictates, and his general lack of basketball intelligence and situational awareness in crucial moments have created an increasingly untenable situation where the Lakers coaching staff feels compelled and essentially forced to abandon traditional lineup construction and go small during crunch time rather than trusting their supposed anchor in the paint and highest-paid frontcourt player to execute fundamental basketball plays and provide the interior presence they desperately need. The absolutely damning sight of the Lakers finishing Monday's game with LeBron James operating at center while Ayton watched helplessly and ineffectively from the bench represents exactly the kind of failure and resource misallocation that championship contending teams should never have to resort to with their marquee free agent acquisition and supposed foundational piece, especially against the Thunder team that was missing several key rotation players and should theoretically have been vulnerable to inside scoring second chance opportunities, and the type of physical interior play that Ayton was specifically acquired to provide. The broader implications of ATN's continued struggles extend far beyond individual game results and statistical production as they call into serious question the Lakers' entire offseason strategy of prioritizing his acquisition over other potential options, who might have provided significantly better value, more reliable production, or better schematic fit within their existing roster construction and playing style. The 7-foot center's apparent inability to consistently impact winning basketball, despite his undeniable physical tools, impressive athletic gifts, and previous success with other organizations has become a growing source of frustration for Lakers fans, front office, personnel, and coaching staff members who watch the team invest significant financial resources and roster flexibility in a player who is supposed to solve their interior presence problems and provide championship-level rim protection, but has instead created entirely new concerns about effort level, game-to-game consistency, and fundamental basketball intelligence. His maddening tendency to drift through possessions without asserting himself physically, his struggles to maintain proper positioning and defensive awareness on both ends of the court, and his apparent inability to recognize and react appropriately. Two-game situations and momentum shifts in real time have combined to create a perfect storm of disappointment and frustration that threatens to undermine the team's championship aspirations if not addressed through either dramatic personnel improvement or significant personnel changes through trade or roster reshuffling. I believe the Lakers may rapidly be approaching a crucial organizational crossroads where they need to seriously and honestly evaluate whether its ceiling as a player and contributor truly aligns with their championship timeline and competitive window, particularly given the urgency created by LeBron James's advancing age, Luka Doncic's prime years, and the increasingly competitive landscape throughout the Western Conference where teams are making aggressive moves to capitalize on their championship opportunities. The unexpected silver lining and cause for cautious optimism from Monday's thoroughly frustrating defeat was the return and reintegration of several key contributors who had been sidelined by various injuries, personal circumstances, and developmental assignments, creating renewed hope and strategic flexibility about the team's depth rotation possibilities and overall ceiling as they prepare for tonight's crucial and potentially season-defining matchup against the dangerous and rapidly improving San Antonio Spurs. Aduthiro's recall from the South Bay Lakers represents a potentially significant and game-changing development for the team's wing depth and defensive versatility, as the athletic and promising rookie has finally overcome the MCL sprain that had frustratingly sidelined him since late December and appears genuinely ready to contribute meaningful and impactful minutes for a Lakers team that desperately needs additional defensive versatility, youthful energy, and the type of disruptive athletic presence that can change games through hustle plays and defensive intensity. Thiro's impressive combination of size, length, defensive instincts, and raw athleticism could provide exactly the type of disruptive and game-changing presence the Lakers need to slow down opposing offenses, create additional lineup flexibility and matchup advantages for JJ Redick, and bring the kind of infectious energy and effort that championship teams often need from their young contributors during crucial stretches of games and playoff series. The fact that he's finally healthy and available comes at a perfect time for a Lakers team that has struggled with consistent wing defense and has often been forced to play veterans extended minutes when fresher legs and more athletic players might provide better matchups against younger, more explosive offensive players. Similarly, the official signing of Kobe Buffkin to a 2-year contract with a team option for the following season represents a calculated and potentially brilliant gamble on pure upside and offensive potential that could pay absolutely massive dividends if the young guard can translate even a reasonable fraction of his dominant and eye-popping G-League production to the NBA level and provide the type of instant offensive impact that championship teams often discover from unexpected sources. Buffkin's absolutely incredible and almost video game-like statistics with the South Bay Lakers, including an astronomical 26.7 points per game on an elite 1% three-point shooting percentage, strongly suggests that he possesses legitimate NBL-level scoring ability and could provide exactly the type of microwave scoring punch and offensive firepower that championship teams often need from their bench contributor. During crucial playoff moments when starters are resting or when offensive droughts threaten to derail momentum, the strategic decision by the Lakers organization to invest their precious and final roster spot in a young player with clear upside potential rather than settling for a veteran minimum player with established limitations and minimal ceiling demonstrates a refreshing organizational commitment to long-term building and development while still maintaining their immediate championship aspirations and competitive timeline for this season, thinking about it from a purely strategic and analytical perspective. The Lakers have positioned themselves brilliantly to potentially discover a valuable long-term contributor while maintaining the flexibility to make additional moves if better options become available through the buyout market, trade opportunities, or other unexpected avenues that might emerge as the season progresses toward the playoffs. Tonight's potentially pivotal matchup against the San Antonio Spurs represents both an immediate opportunity for redemption and validation and a crucial test of this team's character, resilience, and ability to respond positively to adversity when facing a young, athletic, and increasingly confident opponent that could easily expose many of the same defensive weaknesses, offensive limitations, and mental fragility issues that the Thunder exploited so effectively and systematically during Monday evening's disappointing performance. The Spurs, led by the absolutely transcendent and generational talent that is Victor Wembanyama, and supported by an increasingly confident and cohesive supporting cast of young players who are gaining valuable experience and confidence with each passing game, present exactly the type of multifaceted challenge that will reveal whether the Lakers have learned anything meaningful from their recent struggles and setbacks or whether they remain fundamentally vulnerable to the same recurring issues and problematic patterns that have plagued them throughout this maddeningly inconsistent season. San Antonio's impressive combination of length, athleticism, defensive versatility, and improving offensive chemistry could create significant problems and strategic headaches for a Lakers offense that has struggled to maintain consistent ball movement, player movement, and shot creation when facing teams that can switch multiple positions effectively, disrupt passing lanes aggressively, and force them out of their preferred pace, spacing, and offensive rhythm. The Spurs' young core has shown remarkable growth and development throughout the season, and they're exactly the type of hungry, fearless team that could catch the Lakers at the wrong moment and deliver the kind of upset victory that would send shockwaves through the Western Conference playoff race, while potentially exposing fundamental flaws in the Lakers' roster construction and strategic approach. The continued absence of Luka Doncic due to his hamstring injury places enormous additional pressure and responsibility on LeBron James and Austin Reeves to carry a significantly heavier offensive load while also requiring greater and more consistent contributions from role players who have shown frustrating inconsistency and unreliability throughout the season when asked to step into expanded roles and elevated responsibilities. This creates both significant risk and tremendous opportunity for the Lakers, as games without their leading scorer and primary offensive creator have sometimes revealed hidden depth, unexpected offensive creativity, and surprising contributions from unlikely sources, while other times brutally exposing their lack of reliable secondary option, forcing completely unsustainable usage rates on their remaining star players. LeBron James's post-game comments about the difference between championship contenders and playoff contenders following the Thunder loss were particularly revealing and concerning, as they suggested that even the team's veteran leader and most experienced champion fundamental gaps between where this team currently stands and where they need to compete with the elite teams in both conferences. When a player with LeBron's championship pedigree and basketball IQ makes such pointed distinctions about contender status, it often signals deeper concerns about roster construction, team chemistry, and overall championship readiness that extend far beyond individual game results or temporary slumps. Tonight's game against San Antonio will provide absolutely invaluable insight into whether the recent additions of Luka, the potential contributions from returning players like Thero, and the overall team chemistry improvements can provide enough offensive firepower, defensive stability, and mental toughness to overcome the loss of their most productive player while demonstrating the kind of improved execution in previously problematic areas that championship teams must display when facing adversity and lineup challenges. The Lakers' ability to maintain their offensive efficiency without Doncic while showing marked improvement in defensive communication, ball security, and clutch time execution will serve as a crucial barometer for their ultimate championship potential and competitive ceiling. I believe tonight's matchup represents exactly the type of character test that will ultimately determine the trajectory of the Lakers' entire season, as their ability to win games convincingly without their best player while simultaneously showing dramatic improvement in the areas of previous weakness will ultimately determine whether they're capable of making a legitimate and sustainable championship run, or whether they'll remain frustratingly trapped in that disappointing middle ground between genuine contender and playoff pretender that has defined far too much of their recent organizational history and championship pursuits.